Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner. This week I'll be recording the podcast and responding live to any chats coming in at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I wanted to make sure this week's podcast went smoothly as far as my connection goes. For any of you that have tuned in over the last 2 weeks, you probably know that my connection's been kind of iffy and very spotty. So I want to make sure this one goes smooth because this one's going to be an important week. This is a special week. As we review my wonderful predictions for the playoffs, I did such a great job pontificating every playoff contender. We're going to review the WFL Bowl that occurs tonight, and we're going to go over our All-Pro teams and our awards. We're going to end the show with the Ask the Chief segment, as always, along with everything else I've already mentioned. And I am your host, one of the leadership team of the WFL, Coach Winuvas of the Seattle Seahawks. If you're watching this, whether you're watching it at the time of the premiere at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or whether you're watching it after the fact on recording, we appreciate it. We appreciate any and all support. Without good owners, the WFL doesn't exist. A couple of housekeeping notes before I get started, though. The first thing I want to talk about is the WFL's incentive plan. With the season ending officially tonight, any owners who have earned incentive points this season will need to report them using our incentive plan form. The link to the form is in Discord announcements. Please use it to make sure you get what you deserve this offseason. There is now a video on our league YouTube page detailing the incentive plan and how to go about participating in it. If you would like more information on this, particularly for our newer members, please check out our WFL YouTube page. You can use /WFL YouTube in all one word in our custom command section in the channel in Discord. Second thing to talk about, the Ask the Chief form. As always, you can use this form during the week between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I will answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. You can use the command Ask the Chief, all one word, /Ask the Chief, to pull up the form in Discord. I would also like to ask for help again in recruiting new owners to the league. We currently have 5 openings. We have 4 in the AFC. We have 1 in the NFC. We do have 2 people that are currently on the waiting list. We're waiting on them to submit quiz applications. And I will do what I can to make sure we try and get some folks in. But please do what you can as well to help out with any recruitment efforts, because it can mean incentive points for season 3's end. Finally, with us beginning our offseason officially tomorrow, or at least according to all that have been told so far with scheduling, we do have our off-season schedule posted in the Discord announcements as well. Please review this for time frame as to when we will advance to certain times of the off-season. Please be active during this time. We will not wait for you. If you aren't available due to work or other types of obligations, please set yourself to auto so the CPU can attempt to do some of the work on your behalf. I know I saw some questions in the Discord chat this morning about the time frames and how it looked kind of oddball. Just be aware that our general process is we allow 12 hours from the day after the WFL Bowl is played to do any sort of coach changes. So offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator changes can occur at that point. Once that is done, we will advance to the re-sign stage, which we'll give about 12 hours to. So we'll go overnight with that. In the morning, we will then advance to stage 1 of free agency, which will last 24 hours. And it will end the next day, next morning. Then we'll go to stage 2, which will be a shortened form, about 12 hours. And then we'll do stage 3, which is about 12 to 18 hours in advance of getting to the draft. The draft this year, as you may be aware from our last week's announcement, it is a simulated draft. Yes, it sucks. I love doing draft shows. We can't help it. It's Madden and it's EA. So we will be doing a simulated draft. And once we simulate the draft, we will simulate to week 3 of the preseason with injuries off. So no worries about injuries if you play your game or any injuries occurring during those simulated weeks. Once we have hit week 3 of the preseason, you can then submit any sort of position change forms for any of your players, rookies or otherwise. Do remember that you will be allowed to trade rookies, and trading can begin as soon as really the offseason starts. But if you're wanting to trade your rookies, be sure you keep some trades in reserve. Don't waste all your trades on stuff before the draft. Make sure you have some after the draft in case your draft does not go the way you want it to. Do be aware, make sure you set your favorites. I did a video on how to set your draft favorites. It's on our WFL YouTube page, so do be aware to check that out if you have any questions on how to set up your favorites. Once we get to week 3 of the preseason, we'll say about 24 to 36 hours there for anybody to try and play their game if they desire to. It is never a forced thing to play the preseason. It's entirely up to you and your opponent. But if you do not play after 24 to 36 hours, we will advance to week 4 of the preseason. And at that point, we're going to leave about 24 hours to make sure everybody's at 53-man rosters and set their practice squads to the best of their ability and have submitted all their off-season regimen program stuff. Do remember that even if you don't do any incentive stuff, you still do get some off-season regimen stuff based on A, just being in the league, and B, if you have any restricted free agents that are signed by other teams, which we will be monitoring throughout the entirety of the free agency process. So do be aware, you do get points even if you don't do an incentive plan. You do get some off-season regimen points you can use. Check out the regimen program using the custom commands found in Discord. I don't have those right handy, but you can type /help space commands, and it should pop up all the commands that are available to you with our custom Me6 bot. That being said, we're going to jump out of housekeeping notes, which that was a lot of housekeeping notes to go over, and we're going to jump directly into WFL Bowl Dose. As I pull up WFL Bowl Dose, I thought I had it up, but I guess I didn't. Okay, there we go right there. Let's pop it up on screen. As I so rightly predicted, as many of you know, I am great at this prediction game. You know, I predicted the Colts and the Rams last week on the podcast to make it to WFL Bowl 2. You know that's a fact. That is such a lie. I can't even joke about it anymore. I was terrible on my predictions. I literally went 0-5 in wild card weekend, or 1-5, 1-5. And the only reason I went 1-5 is because the Jaguars, or the former Jaguars owner that left us in a tiff because he couldn't stand losing, basically rage quit and gave the Chiefs the only team to win a game that I predicted they would win. Everyone else I predicted to win lost. So that should tell you how good my predictions were. So really, there's no point in going over anything past that point. I went 1-5 during the wild card weekend, and the Chiefs got eliminated in the divisional round, which I think I had them get into the championship game. Either way, my predictions were off. They were dead to the water. So we do have the Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Rams fighting it out for supremacy in WFL Bowl 2, and that wonderful little tag of WFL Bowl champion that'll be passed to one of them off of Meat Boy. Meat Boy, this is your last day to have that mantle on your name, at least until you earn it back in WFL Bowl 3, if you can. This is going to be a good game. This is a good matchup. The Rams are a nice balanced offense with a pretty decent defense as far as their pass rush goes with Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald. I have not seen much of the Indianapolis Colts, to be fair, but I do know them from last year, so I know they're going to rely on a solid run game from Jonathan Taylor and a bend but don't break defense anchored by Kwity Paye, Shaq Leonard, and Stephon Gilmore. So with that being said, I expect a good one. I'm not going to predict anything at this point, but in our Ask the Chief segment, you'll see I'll have a chance to give a prediction, which could be the kiss of death to whoever I pick. I did ask them jokingly in chat to send me PayPal money to not predict them to win. So I haven't seen any money come in yet, so I guess I'll just pick whoever I don't like. But that just sounds mean, doesn't it? I'm going to predict who I think is going to win based upon my interactions with the individuals. And based on my predictions, as far as past predictions, it's going to be completely wrong. So whoever I pick, I'm sorry, I've given you the kiss of death right now. But we'll talk about the predictions for the WFL Bowl in our Ask the Chief segment, because one of our questions is anchored around something around the WFL Bowl. So I'll save that for later. What I want to do now, though, is I do want to make an announcement about our award winners. And I want to start with our Sportsman of the Season. This is a new award that was introduced via feedback from our end-of-season surveys. One of our owners interjected and asked that we try and do more for those owners that have worse records, that maybe aren't as good and mad as some of the other cream of the crop. And to be fair, with when you have to get 10 or 11 wins to get into the playoffs in the NFC or AFC, not all of us are 10 or 11 win talent as far as on the sticks. Me, definitely not. So the idea to reward some teams that didn't make the playoffs or weren't as good this season as they maybe hoped was appealing to me as someone who is an owner that's usually in that bottom tier. This season I had a couple of good sims, so I ended up barely above 500, but not by much. And if you watch me play, I got disconnected a couple of times in games that honestly were even, but I was starting to lose momentum, and the opponent and I agreed to a fair sim, and I got lucky on some of them, and I didn't get lucky on some. So basically, I ended up with about a 500 record. But anyway, not enough about me. It's not about me. It's about Sportsman of the Season. So basically, what we've done is we created a list of everyone, leadership or otherwise, that finished below 500 this season. And we passed that list to the WFL Associated Press, and their job was to basically vote on who they felt earned this award. And this award is basically providing good commentary in chat, basically being a good sport in chat, being a good sport post-game, basically embodying everything that the WFL motto entails, which is it's not about the W or the L, it's about the WFL. And I'm pleased to report that we did have a winner, and it is Coach Studley of the Atlanta Falcons, who earned 3 first-place votes out of 5 and 1 second-place vote out of 5 for a total of 18 points. To give you an idea, each first-place vote earned 5 points. Each second-place vote earned 3 points. Each third-place vote earned 1 point, to give you an idea of the list. Our second-place winner is the Cowboys and Maniac. He earned a first-place vote and a second-place vote for a total of 8 points. And then third place is our new Vikings owner, formerly Chargers owner, Polio, who got a first-place vote and a third-place vote for 6 points total. So to let you know, this award, the winner of the award, Coach Studley of the Falcons, will earn himself a spot in the WFL record book. This will actually be an award we track season by season, just like we do most of the other awards. And first place will get 8 points that they can spend towards non-premium attributes. And I'm going to come back on screen real quick. It is for non-premium attributes, but in effect, it can be spent on any number of players that you want to, as long as you adhere to the rules for upgrading attributes for players. No more than 3 points in a single attribute per offseason. No more than 8 points on any one single player. So if you want to dump it into one player, you can. If you want to spread the love amongst multiple players, you can do that as well. And Coach Studley has earned the right to spend those 8 points however he has seen fit, by being a good sport and being good for the WFL throughout the year. Here's to maybe a not losing season next year, Coach Studley. Maniac and the Cowboys, also known as Hungry Line in the Discord server chat, he earns 6 points to spend in non-premium attributes as second place. And Vikings, Polio, earned 4 points to spend on non-premium attributes. So I'd like to congratulate our winner, Coach Studley, who was voted on by his peers in the Associated Press as the #1 guy for the inaugural Sportsman of the Year award. This is something we will do going forward, and he will get a mark in the record book for being Sportsman of the Year. Congratulations to Coach Studley, and congratulations to everybody who got votes on that as well. Obviously, not everybody can win beyond that point, but congratulations to anybody who did get votes. Everybody who was under 500 was on the board to be nominated. So just letting you know that right off the cuff. The only ones that were excluded were CPU teams, because obviously we're not going to give it to a CPU. We can't give it to a CPU team. So just letting you know that. So congratulations to the other 3 owners who have earned some incentive points or some attribute points that they can spend going into next season on top of what they hopefully have earned through other means. Which leads me to awards time. And we're going to talk first about our WFL awards for Season 2, as I make sure I got everything pulled up the way I want to. Here we go. There's what I want. And so I'd like to introduce our Season 2 MVP as voted on by the WFL Associated Press. And drum roll, please. That player is running back Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans, has earned the WFL MVP award, and from looking at his stats, you can see why. He was the lifeblood of a Texans team that relied on the run to get a lot of wins. He had almost 300 carries on the season for 1,818 yards and 20 touchdowns, 11 runs of 20-plus yards, 68 broken tackles. Longest run was 91 yards. Also had 9 receptions in the passing game, but definitely was the lifeblood of the run game and a vital component going forward in Coach Blackhawk's Texans power run game. This kid was the real deal, and as a rookie coming in, basically taking that team on his shoulders, Very much akin to, if you go back a little bit in Texans history, maybe something like an Arian Foster style of game there for Dameon Pierce, who is, congratulations, he is the WFL MVP for Season 2. I'm going to also announce the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Here's a shocker. It's Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans. I've already said all I need to say about him. But he wins both the MVP of the league and Offensive Rookie of the Year. Honestly, there was no surprise on Offensive Rookie of the Year. I felt he was going to win that in a landslide. I was a little surprised on MVP. But again, when you carry a team that has less than subpar talent to a 10 or 11 win season and near playoff contention, that's grounds for celebration, and Houston's only going to get better going forward. And Dameon Pierce is going to be the lifeblood of that team going forward, at least until he gets his contract, and then that's going to be trouble. But congratulations to Dameon Pierce for winning both the MVP of the league and Offensive Rookie of the Year. Our Defensive Rookie of the Year, let me get his stuff pulled up so that way I can drum roll him in. It's Troy Anderson of the Atlanta Falcons, middle linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Very fast middle linebacker out of Montana State, second-round draft pick. Career stats, didn't really wow in tackles, had 57 tackles, but basically did a little bit of everything for this Falcons squad that was starting to figure its way out at the end of the season. And he will be a linchpin in the middle there going forward as far as a coverage-based linebacker. And I believe Studley runs a combo scheme 4-3-3-4. But he had 57 tackles, which again didn't lead the league, wasn't even top 10, I do believe, in the league. Had 2.5 sacks, which isn't great, but also had 4 interceptions, one of those being a pick 6. Did a ton of work on this Falcon squad to try and make that defense viable, and he's got 3 more years to make it even more so. I'd like to congratulate the Atlanta Falcons and Troy Anderson for winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year for Season 2 for the WFL. And now we move on to Offensive Player of the Year. And even though it's Dameon Pierce. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Dameon Pierce this time. However, we do have a different player in the mix. It is, make sure I got him up. He's up. Make sure, there we go. Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings. This was a player that missed 3 games and still amassed almost 1,700 yards in receiving to lead the league. He had 83 receptions, which was top 5 in the league. He had 16 touchdowns, which I believe led the league. This guy was the focal point for Kirk Cousins in that high-octane Minnesota offense that Coach Polio now has to live up to. Justin Jefferson is a stud. He is a beast, and he's entering the last year of his contract. Have fun with that, Polio. This is a guy that is a beast. He is deserving of this award and of this honor and of this accolade. And he will only be better next year, I feel like, just because he'll actually be playing in all 17 games. He did get hurt this year and still led the league in receiving and receptions and touchdowns. That is an amazing feat from Justin Jefferson, and we wish him well as we go into Season 3. He will be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC North. All righty, so that leaves me one award to announce, and it is the Defensive Player of the Year. And this one comes a little bit out of left field. We've kind of had a run we've had the Texans run on the MVP and Offensive Rookie of the Year. We've had the Falcons. We've talked about a little bit. We haven't talked about this team, though, and this team did make the AFC Championship game. They made the AFC Divisional Round game, excuse me. That would be the New York Jets and their player Jordan Whitehead at strong safety, spearheading this defensive attack, led the league, thinking of a different player. I am thinking of this player. Sorry, Jordan Whitehead did tie for the league lead in interceptions with 10, had 29 tackles from that strong safety position, had 2 sacks, 9 deflections, had a forced fumble, had a fumble recovery. 4 of the 10 interceptions were pick 6s. That is ridiculous. Scoring points for your team from a defensive standpoint is ridiculous. This guy did it all for the Jets, getting them into the playoffs, earning them a spot in the playoffs over some very tough teams. Losing in the divisional matchup to Cleveland eventually, but Jordan Whitehead was definitely not the problem, and he is going to look to be a force to be reckoned with coming into his contract year next year. So lots of guys having to make some tough decisions on some really quality players who get awards in Season 2 in the WFL. So that does it for our awards. Let me pop up the actual awards listing on our record book, which will be posted back up here shortly. Damian Pierce, Troy Anderson, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Whitehead. Congratulations to those guys for earning awards from the WFL Associated Press for Season 2. Now, that being said, we're going to move on to the All-Pro team for Season 2. So we'll start with our All-Pro team with the NFC offensive side of the ball, and it goes as follows. At quarterback, by the Associated Press votes, Kirk Cousins in the Minnesota Vikings is your quarterback of the AFC or the NFC squad, excuse me. David Montgomery is your running back from the Chicago Bears. Justin Jefferson and Darnell Mooney from the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears are your wide receivers. Kyle Pitts from the Atlanta Falcons is your tight end. Your offensive tackles are Trent Williams and Ryan Ramczyk from the San Francisco 49ers and New Orleans Saints, respectively. Cody Whitehair and Shaq Mason are your guards from the Chicago Bears and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, respectively. Your center is Chase Rouillier from the Washington Commanders. And your flex position, as voted on from the Associated Press of the WFL, is wide receiver A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. As we move on into the defense for the NFC, we have Nick Bosa and Shaq Barrett from the San Francisco 49ers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, respectively, at your outside linebacker defensive end edge spots. We have Jonathan Allen and Derek Brown from the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers anchoring your interior defensive line. We have Fred Warner as your from the San Francisco 49ers as your middle linebacker for the NFC Defensive All-Pro team. Our flex position for middle linebacker and outside linebacker is outside linebacker Leonard Floyd from the Los Angeles Rams. Your corners, Darnay Holmes and Jair Alexander from the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers, respectively. Your safeties are Jeremy Chin from the Carolina Panthers and Cameron Curl from the Washington Commanders. And your flex position for any defensive position is defensive end Aaron Donald from the Los Angeles Rams. And that is your WFL NFC All-Pro team for offense and defense. Now, to keep it moving, we're going to go into the AFC, and the AFC is as follows. Back up on screen, Josh Allen is your quarterback from the Buffalo Bills. Running back is Damian Pierce of the Houston Texans. No surprise there. Wide receivers are Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill from the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, respectively. Lots of Bills in this lineup. Tight end is Dawson Knox from your Buffalo Bills. Tackles, Jack Conklin and Ronnie Stanley from the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens, respectively. Your guards are Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green from the Los Angeles Chargers and Houston Texans, respectively. And your center is Ethan Pocic from the Cleveland Browns. And your flex position, as voted on by the WFL Associated Press, running back Nick Chubb from the Cleveland Browns. And that does it for your AFC offense. But let's move on to defense, because who cares about the offense, right? Defense wins championships. Ain't that the way it goes? Let's talk it. Von Miller and Joey Bosa from the Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers are your edge rushers in this scheme. Daron Payne and Chris Jones from the Los Angeles Chargers and Kansas City Chiefs are your interior defensive linemen. Denzel Perryman from the Las Vegas Raiders is your middle linebacker. Your flex position at the linebacker spot is outside linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from the Cleveland Browns. Your corners, Xavier Howard and Stephon Gilmore from the Miami Dolphins and Indianapolis Colts. And the safeties are Jordan Whitehead and Von Bell from the New York Jets and Cincinnati Bengals, with the flex spot at any position being defensive end Kwity Paye from the AFC champion Indianapolis Colts. And that does it for your AFC All-Pro team for offense and defense. So that is our NFC and AFC All-Pro teams. I'd like to extend a hearty congratulations to any players and any teams that made the All-Pro team. Congratulations to those players and those owners that had those players. You worked hard to get there. The Associated Press is rewarding you for that. Congratulations to anybody who earned a spot on the hopefully illustrious All-Pro team for WFL, AFC, and NFC. And with that, we're going to move on to Ask the Chief. And Ask the Chief has a load tonight, which is kind of a rarity. It's a little different than normal. Usually I struggle for questions. Today, not so much. Let's start from the top. Cool Juke asks, pick the WFL Bowl MVP. Oh boy. Back on camera. So, remember earlier I said I wasn't going to pick a winner in the WFL Bowl between the Rams and Colts because I did such a great job picking the playoffs. I figured, why should I pick a winner right now? And I wasn't going to pick a winner until somebody made me pick an MVP, which means I kind of got to pick a winner. So I kind of rattled it around in my brain a little bit. And having watched the Rams and participated against the Rams and not really seen much of the Colts, and that's no knock against the Colts. He's obviously done a lot to get here. I just haven't watched many of his games versus the Rams where I've played against the Rams actively. I feel like the MVP might be somebody that's going to be a little bit of a surprise maybe. I'm going to predict running back Cam Akers. And the reason for that is Cam Akers in that offensive style that IMZ likes to run, he typically can get big chunks. He's good at getting chunk plays with Cam Akers, especially 20-plus yard runs. I can see him breaking off one or two, especially maybe a backbreaker late in the game to seal it, which kind of gives away my pick a little bit. But I think it's going to be a good contest. I don't think it's going to get out of the 30s as far as scoring. I predict it to be in the 20s. And my final prediction for WFL Bowl 2, since I'm being forced to predict it, is going to be Rams 27, Colts 21, and Cam Akers is your WFL Bowl 2 MVP. You heard it here first. That means, officially, Rams, I've jinxed you, and I'm sorry. Okay? But hopefully it's a good game. It's a good contest. Hopefully it's a good, clean contest. Don't want to emphasize that enough. This is the pinnacle of our league. This is basically the top of the top, the creme de la creme. I'm hoping to see a really good, clean contest. I will not be up for it. It's played well beyond my bedtime. Sorry, guys. But I will hopefully hear about it, and if I need to, hopefully I don't need to, but I will hopefully watch it with enjoyment instead of with my gameplay guru eyeballs on tomorrow at some point whenever I can catch it. But good luck to both contestants. Good luck to Juke. Good luck to IMZ. I don't wish ill will towards either one of them. I hope it's a good, clean game. I hope everybody enjoys it that watches it, and I hope it's a good contest that showcases the best of the best of what WFL has to offer to everyone in the Madden community. So good luck to both of you, but I am predicting officially Rams 27, Colts 21, Cam Akers is the WFL Bowl MVP because Juke made me. That's because Juke made me. I'm blaming him. All right, so a couple of questions now from Kobe. Or no, I'm sorry. I skipped one. My bad. Studley. Coach Studley asks, which owners have the best chance to turn around their Season 1 performance, including both record and roster? And I'm going to flip out, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say that the asker of the question is one of the answers. I think the Atlanta Falcons, and it pains me as a Saints fan in real life to say anything good about the Falcons, whether Madden or otherwise, but I do think that the Falcons have figured some stuff out with Desmond Ridder. They have Kyle Pitts. They have Drake London. They're going to build some extra weapons. They have free agency money they can toss around now that Matt Ryan's money is off the books that they had to eat this year for cap hit for the real life trade. I think the rebuild's in full effect. They need some defensive help. Obviously, they're going to need some pass rush at some point, obviously. But I think continuing to make sure that Desmond Ridder is upright and he's on that cheap quarterback rookie contract, I think that's ideal to helping Falcons grow. And I think they're going to do some great things in Season 2, even though they are in a tough division with a Buck squad that I think is going to come back down to earth as Tom Brady comes back down to earth. I think the Panthers, unless they figure out something more steady at the quarterback position, will still be good, but I think they're going to have their troubles keeping the offense going. I think the Falcons have a chance to really make some noise in the division, especially with some good offseason moves. So I think the Falcons would be an excellent NFC team to predict as an answer to this question. On the AFC side, I can't really think. The only team that really comes to mind that kind of finished lower than expected, but isn't going to really have to turn over the roster much, I think it's Cincinnati. I think Rusta has figured some stuff out on that standpoint, even though the sliders have been tweaked a little bit to help out for the end of the season. I think that helped a lot of teams. More news on that in a future question. But I don't think they need to change much on the roster wide. I think they have decent pass rush. If they can find an elite pass rusher at a good value, get something there. Maybe some help in the linebacking core. Maybe some help on the outside in the secondary. But offensively speaking, on paper, they have a solid offensive line. They have Joe Burrow, obviously, at quarterback, Jamar Chase at wide receiver, Joe Mixon at running back. Maybe find a tight end to help out a little bit. I'm not sure what their tight end situation is at this point. But I would say the Bengals in the AFC would be my pick to kind of have a rebound season. I think he started to rebound late. It was just too little too late. And I think with the AFC North in a little bit of flux right now with 2 openings in the AFC North that hopefully we get filled, the Bengals could potentially roar back to the top of that division if some quote-unquote weaker competition takes over those teams, or if a CPU still runs them. Because if CPU still runs them, obviously you can run the CPU a good bit. But those would be my sayings would be Falcons in the NFC and Bengals in the AFC. But Bengals don't have to do much roster turnover. Falcons do, but they have the cap space to do it. So I think they'll be fine. So next question is from Kobe. He's got 3 in a row. He's got 3 in a row coming in. Sorry, I turned off the wrong thing temporarily. So first question, were there any plans to reward people from Season 1 who lost out on incentives due to Madden being bad? This is one of the times where I have to deliver bad news. No, we're not. At some point, we do have to move on from the Madden is bad, so let's reward guys strategy. We've done that for the last couple a little bit. We did it coming into this season. We awarded guys basically the same incentives they had earned 2 seasons ago because we had issues with draft revert glitches in Madden 22. We had issues with basically a rotating schedule where we got locked into a week 14-15 loop. And to keep morale up a little bit, we rewarded guys by keeping all their incentives coming into Madden 23. Then Madden 23 had a lot of headaches to get us even started. So we basically nixed the incentive plan for that season. At this point, the plan is to go full hog on the incentives. And if you chose not to participate, and I completely understand not wanting to participate because this game does not really encourage you to create content for it. I really do understand it. But at the same time, we can't keep rewarding guys because the game is bad. At some point, we have to see some content come from our ownership to reward them with these incentives. That's what they're supposed to be, is rewards for above and beyond content creation. And so with that being said, if you chose not to create any content or were unable to due to time constraints or just desire, you don't have to do the content. But just be aware that if you did not do any content or did not earn any incentive plan-based tier stuff, you will be demoted to whatever tier you've earned, whether that's regular coach, whether that's tier 3, which is our lowest tier, tier 2, or tier 1. Whatever you've earned, that's what you're going to get bumped to this coming off season, or bumped up to. Does it suck? Yes, it does. But at the same time, we can't keep rewarding guys for a bad product. We all have to deal with the bad product. At some point, it has to be on the ownership's onus to get content out there if they wish those extra perks. And so we're kind of making the tough love moment of, if you want these perks, you're going to have to provide content of some type. Okay. So that, with that being said, that's what we're going to be doing going forward. Kobe also asked, what's your biggest takeaway from season 2? My biggest takeaway is I like our room right now. That's my biggest takeaway. And what I mean by that is we currently have 27 owners. I feel like of those 27, I feel like almost all of them, I don't really like, I'm struggling. Like, I'm thinking about all the owners, and even those that don't contribute in general chat, which is not a requirement. You don't have to talk in general chat. You don't have to be a social guy to participate in this league. You can just come on and play your games if that's what you want to do. That's fine. But the thing that I like about the 27 people in this room is that all 27, to my knowledge, adhere to the rules as much as possible and don't actively go out of the way to cheat to win. They don't actively go above and beyond to just get the W. It's not about the W. A lot of these guys, I think, do follow our WFL motto, which is, again, it's not about the W or the L, it's about the WFL. I think all 27 guys, for the most part, follow that motto to the best of their ability. And that is heartwarming from leadership standpoint, just because that means we're going to have low turnover. We're not going to be, unless a guy gets frustrated with Madden to the point where they quit, which I can completely understand that. I don't think it's going to be a frustration with somebody in the room breaking rules and not being punished for it that causes you to leave, which is what you see in a lot of other leagues. that I've been a part of and even been in leadership in, but not the top leadership position, where guys will basically just break rules over and over again because they know they can get away with it because they won't get punished. And that frustrates good people to the point where they just walk away. And I can understand why they walk away, because after a while you get tired of running into a brick wall so many times. And I think the 27 guys we have in here right now all pretty much understand how to march to the rules that we have set, and for the most part follow them to the best of their ability, which is, again, that's great to see, because that makes those 5 openings that much easier to deal with. Because essentially if somebody comes in and they're not a fit, don't have to have leadership tell me it's not a fit. I don't even have to say it's not a fit. I can have other guys tell me, hey, this guy doesn't fit. He doesn't need to be here. This is why. He's done this, this, and this. He's shown no reason to change this, this, and this. He needs to go. And having that level of policing where quote-unquote regular owners, I hate using that term. I hate distinguishing between leadership and non-leadership. But when regular owners have that buy-in to police themselves and be respectful about policing themselves, that makes leadership's job that much easier. And I feel like we have that right now. We have, I have 8 guys in the leadership team, which is probably too many, but I do have 8 in there. But the other 19 guys that aren't in there are leaders in here, and that's great to see, because that means you get those guys that are new, you get them up to snuff as quick as possible, you coach them up where you can, and if they can't be coached up or refuse to be coached up, you let us know to cut bait, and we'll let the process cut that bait for us. We'll let them work through the PA and let them work through the PA and work themselves out of the league. And that's great. That means that we should have lower turnover as a result, which means hopefully we can start building a waiting list and kind of getting this thing to a point where maybe we can run 2 leagues. Not me running 2 leagues, but get that same level of engagement in a second league if we had enough of a waiting list. But that's a long way out. We still have to fill this league first and get a waiting list going before we can even do that much. So that's what my biggest takeaway. We have 27 leaders in WFL, and it's hard to say that about any league that has that many guys that can go to bat for the league, and you feel comfortable letting them go to bat to a certain extent for the league as a non-leadership person. So that's my biggest takeaway. This group is really good. That's pretty much how I feel about it. Everybody in here, I don't really have a bad word to say about anybody for the most part. Can some of y'all aggravate me? Yeah, and I'll probably aggravate you too. So it is what it is. It's humans. We're all going to aggravate each other from time to time. But for the most part, we've learned to roll with each other and understand each other and grow with each other. So that's a good thing to see going forward. So that's my biggest takeaway. And third and final question. Is there something you want everyone to focus on for season 3? Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the main focus I want to see, and this is something that my scheduling guy Steve will love for me to say, is I would like to see less of the postings and scheduling threads of, hey, we're up, when can you play? I would really like it to be more, I know it's not professional, but I'd like it to be more professional in that whenever you come on and you come in there, you essentially say, hey, look, I can play this time to this time on this day. I can play this time to this time on this day. I can play this time to this time on this day. And if there's any issues that could cause that to change, such as like for me, I have a wife and she hates me playing Madden. She hates me doing podcasts. She hates me doing anything Madden. So just doing this irritates her. That's why I do it when she's not home. Anyway, so I have to work around the wife. So if she's had a bad day at work, I don't play Madden because it's on the main TV. She don't want to watch it. And if she does have to sit there and watch it, she will basically stare daggers into my back until I stop. And even then, she'll be upset. So everybody has certain things they have to work around. Some people have kids. I understand that. I have cats. Not that that's kids equivalent, but I have enough cats to make it equivalent to kids. Side note, I have 14 cats that live in the house with me. Yes, I am that crazy person. Anyway, I would like to see more professionalism in scheduling threads. And I'd also like to see more professionalism about responding to them. I think our scheduler is going to announce, which I may be jumping the gun for him a little bit, Sorry, Steve. But I think he's going to announce that basically once someone posts in those scheduling threads that we create for you, that's something we create for you. So that's nothing you even have to create anymore. We do that for you. So basically all you have to do is within the 36-hour time frame, post once, and then if someone's posted and tagged you, respond to it within 24 hours with a definite of a certain time frame that you can definitely play in. I think that's the big thing is we've seen a lot of communication that's been ambiguous and left to interpretation. And I'm going to tell you now, if we as leadership have to interpret it, you won't like the result. So be clear and concise in your communication with your fellow players when you're scheduling these games, and be prompt in the response, as prompt as you can be. I'm not asking you to drop everything right then and there and post as soon as you get tagged, but I am asking within 24 hours, it's not unreasonable for you to jump on Discord, because with all the availability it has, phone, browser, app on a laptop, that's what I run it on. I have it on all three though. I have it on my phone, I have it on web browser up at work, and I have it on my laptop at home. There's no excuse really for you not to communicate at least once in a 24-hour period, or at least check it once a day. I'm not asking for the world there, I don't think. I think tightening up our scheduling, which is very good, by the way. I don't want to make it sound like doom and gloom about scheduling, but we can tighten that up, and that's something we do need to tighten up from a communication standpoint. So I think focusing on scheduling and focusing specifically on over-communicating scheduling would be something I would love for our owners to do going into season 3. I don't mind over-communication. I don't like under-communication. And when I see under-communication, I assume lack of effort and lack of caring. I assume least common denominator, which may not be the right way to go, but that's the way I work and operate. So just to give you an idea of my mentality, especially if you come to an appeals process about scheduling where somebody else has said you don't schedule good, and then you come to me and say, hey, I think I schedule fine. If I look at it and I see ambiguous communications, I'm going to say, nope, schedule's right. You need to schedule better. Okay? That's just the way I work and operate. So just kind of a heads up. That's what I'm looking for. That's the thing I would look at the most going into season 3, as far as what we can do as an ownership group. So next up, Amazing Forever. That is our fairly new Browns, now Chargers owner. He's moving over the Chargers effective offseason. Are there any anticipated rule or slider changes for next season? Okay, I like this one. I like this question. Okay, first things first, there is definitely going to be a slider adjustment on interceptions. It will not go back to 50, which is the default. That was basically what it was set at for the first 8 weeks of the season, even though we had adjusted it down. The sliders weren't working. When the sliders did start working, we went from having a bunch of interceptions a game to hardly any, and it went from one extreme to the other. And I, as someone who throws interceptions a lot, and as someone who relies on the turnover a lot to keep a game momentum in my favor, it handcuffed me on both counts, and I'm sure it made my opponents mad because I made a couple of throws a game that I know I should have been punished for. And the thing is, though, I don't want to punish with the way that safeties and corners and secondary react in this game. I don't want to make it as ridiculous as it was before the slider started working. But at the same time, I do want to punish us for making bad decisions, myself included. So the interception slider will be creeping up. It is currently set at 12. We will be creeping it up to 25. That's half of 50. I've been playing with it sparingly in practice mode, and I did a test game where I made a couple of bad throws intentionally, and some of them bounced off of hands and some of them got picked off, more than what we have seen in our league with the 12 slider. Again, I do want some of these to bounce off hands. I do not want every bad throw to be punished. But also by the same token, I do think that we do need more punishment for bad passes. And so we will be upping the interception slider for season 3. That is something I talked about that we were going to do, that I didn't want to do this late in the season because we know it was bad, like as far as no picks during the latter half of the season. I even got some DMs about it. But I was of the mindset that if we changed it at week 15 or 16, it would make the playoffs a much different beast, and I didn't want to do that to the guys who had earned playoff spots. But we will change it going into season 3. The other thing we're talking about changing, which isn't set in stone yet, so this is something that may not happen, is we're talking about changing run blocking and reducing run blocking to make it a little harder for run blocking. I think as a whole, I saw more holes than I felt like I should have from all teams. So I felt like the run game as a whole was a little overpowered. But leadership as a whole is still discussing it. That's the way I feel about it. I've made my feelings known. Some folks agree with me. Some folks don't. So we're kind of having that hash out and figuring that out. So that may be something we change, but that's definitely not a guarantee. The interception slider is guaranteed to go up. Guaranteed to go up. So there will be more interceptions going into season 3. Sorry, warning you now. But it should not be as bad as it was before they fixed the interception slider, where everything was basically if you tossed it more than 20 yards in the air, it was guaranteed interception. And if you threw it in the flats, it was a guaranteed pick 6. It was ridiculous. It was terrible. It was not fun. And we kind of went from one extreme to the other whenever they finally fixed the sliders without, halfway telling us. And then we went from 20,000 picks a game to hardly any, and some of them needed to be interceptions. We want those interceptions to occur, but just not at the rate it was occurring pre-patch. So interceptions going up. Run blocking may go down, maybe. Pass blocking is not going to get touched. I know there have been some that have, based on feedback from the survey, that have talked about use your defensive end being a pain in the neck. And while I can agree it is a pain in the neck, there are counters you can do. You can double team that user, especially if they stick on one side or the other. You can set up a halfback or a tight end to chip. Is that effective 100% of the time? Absolutely not. There are halfbacks and tight ends. They're not offensive linemen. But you also should be on a rhythm of getting the ball out quickly as well. So our rules are set up to where you can set up an offense where you can have a short dink and dunk style offense. As long as you don't overdo one particular route concept or things of that nature and put it in the excessive category, you have means to counter a user defensive end. Even if you feel like you don't have a lot of time, that may just be your Madden kicking in. Stepping up in the pocket would also be an option. If it's not coming from interior pressure, if it's coming from edge, stepping up in the pocket can give you an extra second of time, especially with these guys that kind of flail and kind of go wide on you. Step up in the pocket and make a good quality throw. There are counters. There are counters built into Madden and built into just fundamentals and footwork that you can do to overcome an edge rusher. I need to get better at it too. I know I'm saying it like I do it all the time. I don't. The Rams actually wrecked my stuff in week 18 with outside edge rushing, and I didn't adjust, and I didn't do well with it, and I lost, and that just happens. But it was mostly because I held on to the ball too long, because I was used to people not rushing as much as what he was from the edge, and he got pressure on me that I wasn't anticipating, and that's something I have to adjust to. And I think it just comes down to adjustments, both using Madden adjustments in game to like double team that player, or double team a certain side, or sending a tight end to block, or keeping extra guys in the block. Anything you can do to slow down that pass rush needs to be a viable part of your strategy plan, and just getting the ball out quicker and doing some things that a real life quarterback would do. I know that's weird to say about Madden, but doing some things that a real life quarterback would do will help immensely in doing those and getting outside of that user defensive end. So there's no plans to nerf defensive end at this point, even though that we have had a calling for it. We've talked about it with leadership, and as a group, we're like, if it still becomes an issue after a little bit of this season, maybe we'll change something, but we're not looking to change rules at this point, but that could be subject to change as well. So that, as far as rules though, we're not looking to add a lot. We have a ton in the rule book already. The rule book is almost too big right now, so we don't want to encourage it getting bigger unless we have to. So that's why we're not looking to really add rules, but we are definitely looking at slider adjustments that I mentioned already. And the final question, again from Amazing Forever, our new Brown/Chargers owner now. How do you see a simulated draft going? Any tips to people who haven't done one before? A simulated draft basically will pull BPA for you unless you set a favorites list, and then it will hopefully prioritize those favorites over players that are on the major draft board. You can change your favorites list, but to tag a favorite, you just go into the player, highlight them, and hit the triangle button, and essentially that'll put a heart by their name that puts them on the favorites list. And if you hold down the L2 button, you can cycle through all the regions, and at the bottom, if you've set at least one favorite, it'll have your favorites list. Once you've done that, you can then adjust your favorites by holding or hitting X to select a player, moving them up to the spot you want them on the favorites list, and then hitting X again to lock them into place. And you have to do that with the all tab, because if you do it by position, it will only organize it to the top level of where that position was in the overall draft board. So I would suggest highlighting about 70 or 80 players, preferably players that you've scouted across all 7 rounds, and essentially go through, tag a couple of favorites at each spot, organize them the way you want them to be drafted, and have that done by Friday. And that's going to be your best bet to make sure you have a successful draft. I've been told from others, because I honestly have never used it, sadly. As much as I talk about being a draft guru, I didn't realize where the favorites was with this new changeover in how scouting is done. So I learned about it. I did a video on it, so hopefully that'll help you out as well. It's on the WFL YouTube channel. Yeah, just set your favorites list. I've been told from multiple sources that the favorites list actually is a pretty good read of talent if you set it up properly. You do have to put the extra time in, but if you put the extra time in, you should get a draft class that is up to your standards. But again, if you do have an issue where you get a dearth of a position and you have guys that you can trade to, we are going to allow you to trade rookies, because obviously with a simulated draft, it won't always be 100%. So we want to give guys the option to, if they end up picking a player that they obviously don't like and they have somebody that wants that player, or they have somebody that maybe has a player they want, they can swap players, and we won't have any sort of salary cap penalty. The leadership team will play around the cap penalties to make sure everything is zero when the trade occurs, and then give the penalties back to the new teams that those players are a part of. So that's the game plan anyway. So even if you have a bad draft, as long as you have somebody that's willing to trade with you for those rookies, you will be able to trade going into season 3 rookies, which is something we normally don't do. With that being said, this ran a lot longer than I thought it would, but this is a big episode. We've got the end of season, we got the off season, we got the awards, we had all kinds of stuff going on. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. The WFL appreciates it. And we hope you were entertained by the show. Let us know by throwing us a like, a subscribe, or leaving any comments. Any feedback, good or bad, is always appreciated, guys. Until next Monday, hopefully on the live section, folks, the corner is closed.